Hello, welcome to Real Men of Real Estate. Today we're going to talk about how media and technology are reshaping real estate, and we've got a great panel with you. I am Steve Matley, your host. I'm president of Coast Equities. Today joining me we have Brian Fox. He is the owner of Fox Real Estate Group. He is a broker in Orange County.
Howdy.
We have Tunde Ogunwole. He is a commercial development manager.
Good to be here.
And we have our resident expert who's going to be kind of on the hot seat today answering some of these questions. He's an expert in social media marketing. This is Jeffrey Brogger. He is the owner of Steezy Digital.
Hello.
Welcome. Okay, guys, so we've kind of set the topic here. We're going to talk about how media and technology are reshaping real estate. Obviously, we believe in using media. We're all here doing a television show. We do this every week. We use social media to promote it. So let's get into this and let's talk with social media, which is probably the most prevalent form of personal marketing and branding most people are using today because it's so accessible. So I'm going to start with Jeffrey. He can kind of tee this off here because that's really your line of work, is helping people with their social media. So Jeffrey, tell us how social media is changing the face of real estate today.
Absolutely. So social media today is so much different than previous media that used to need to be purchased by business owners. Traditional media, a Super Bowl ad, I mean, we're talking millions of dollars, right? And even if it's TV or local radio back in the day, now you can reach that similar amount of people for free online, or for a very small ad spend through Facebook ads or any of the other types of social media promotion that's out there. And so with that being said, the access to local community is so much different than it used to be. And due to that, now we're in the influencer age. People that have millions of followers, or even real estate agents that have 30, 50, 100,000 followers on their Instagram, their Facebook, things like this, they can touch their local community with a few clicks and they hit post. So it's really shaping, it's so much different in the way that buyers and sellers get their information now. Yes, there are the Zillow and the Redfin and things like that. There's also these agents that they're able to really influence a local community, and they're doing it by doing simple things like posting to Facebook and posting to their social media. And of course, they have a strategy behind it, because there are agents that have no strategy and no following, and they try to act as if or do the things that aren't really growing. And then there are the agents that do have a strategy. They have someone like me helping them out, or they have a background in it, and they're able to actually grow a community around themselves and their page.
Okay, so Brian, I want to hear your thoughts on this, because I know you've expressed in the past on this show a few of your opinions on the type of branding some agents try to do on social media and why you don't think that's effective.
I was just thinking that exactly.
There you go. Okay.
So, in talking about how the world of real estate is being formed by social media, I think it's also important to look at stuff like TV, big network TV, and let's say the vision of what people think. You know, what they think that stuff looks like. And so a real estate license, I think about every week I know someone new who's getting into my business. And there's nothing special or bad about it. I've been doing it about 20 years, and I've noticed the same thing every single time. Correct me if I'm wrong. The person who is getting their license, before they get it, before they're an agent, they have a life, they have people around them, they have friends, they have family, they have hobbies, they do this, they share all that stuff. The moment they become licensed, everything changes to wake up, grind, repeat, so motivated. They've got like all this stuff on their desk. Look at me just the dumbest stuff. And they become something that they're not.
Okay, now, one thing I've noticed is for some reason they go from the minivan to a Lamborghini overnight, in your pictures at least, right? And they go from the small tract house to they're standing in front of a mansion now when their picture's taken.
Just so we're clear,
So
most of them just kind of stand in front of them. They get in trouble a couple seconds later by the guy who comes, hey, get off my car.
Right, exactly.
I have some friends who have done that.
That's right,
and they got their butt up against the car. Hey, and they walk away. But so the thing is, what they did is their mindset is stuck around what they thought they're supposed to be. And so the imagery of what they think is stuff like, these very large agents, people who have established themselves in the community, people who have maybe even have an ego about it. And they think, well, if I want to be there, if I want to be that, I do that. Plus, 90% of the social media accounts out there are all predicated with the same kind of vibe, right? They all look and sound and smell very much the same. The people who have the giant influencing population, believe it or not, they kind of go the other direction, and they say, this is my deal, this is what I'm doing, and it's not so much about how to pander, it's how to become.
So less pictures in front of a private jet and more pictures on the soccer field.
There can be like a 1 or 2% that does that, but they qualify
I'm saying
for
the ones
it.
that are influenced tend to be, this is me and my kids at the soccer field.
Yeah,
Right.
and I'm probably not the. My philosophy is, if you're gonna do it, don't do anything, because like I see that the only people who like those photos are other agents who are in that same genre. They're trying to be that. They're like, oh man, good post, great job.
So do they learn this somewhere? Is this in a book or a training session somewhere where they all pick it up and think, let's do this?
Monkey see, monkey do. You know, it's funny, but in this business, in our business, it's a very high profile, ego-driven business, and it's a lot of confusion. They don't really know where to start. And everyone says, well, start on social media, get going there. So like, okay, and they look at the 90% of their friends who are posting, like, well, Bobby Joe is doing this, this, and that. I got to get this. I mean, I know people who post everyone else's properties, and they make it look really luxurious, but they don't have anybody they're working with. I would rather, if it was me and I was picking an agent, work with a guy who only deals $100,000 deals but rams them out every 15 minutes. He's got so much experience in getting a deal done.
That's right.
In the hot and the cold. He'll know more about any other deal than somebody who does one $5 million transaction in my neighborhood.
Okay. Tunde, you're on the commercial side of things. So
Sure.
though we've been talking kind of the retail residential
Right,
and
right.
on the commercial side, I don't see a lot of commercial agents making those kind of posts. What I usually see is someone standing in front of the property they just closed, and it's an office building.
Typically.
So tell us what your experience is on that
You know,
side.
and I would say traditionally that's what you typically see is commercial brokers who are pretty well versed. They're standing in front of their property. They're not necessarily looking at the glamour lifestyle in order to attract clients. I would say, just as a personal user, that one of the things that I'm noticing in social media is most people are going to try to understand what other people's opinions are before they make a decision. Right? So in Facebook, I see my friends who've gone to a property, whether it's a hotel or if they're going to an event, they want to. I'm influenced by my friends who might have liked this experience. So that tends to shape opinion a little bit, and I think that that's a benefit. It's a good place to understand what your friends may think. Not necessarily an opportunity to transact on the commercial side, but I do think it's good to get some sense of how people feel about a property.
Okay, and I will say, I'll admit, on my social media, you will find pictures of me standing in front of a fancy car, in front of an airplane. But you know why? Because I was voluntold to be in charge of a nonprofit group, and we were promoting a fashion show that did a shoot there. And as the president of the group, I posed there with us to make promotional stuff. And I don't want to, throw any, names out there who made me do this, but it happens to be the same initials as the producer of this show.
Okay.
So yeah,
All right.
this is how that works.
Steve, I do have a question for you. I'm curious, do you find any information gathering from social media, whether it's Facebook or the information gathering about real
More
estate?
so on
or
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn,
So
okay.
Facebook is really more connecting with people on a human level if they're being serious and legit and honest about who they are. I usually tend to scroll past the people that have they're posing in front of these fancy mansions that I know they never even visited. Yeah, in front of, it's J. Paul Getty's estate or something. I know they don't live there.
Sure.
Right, but I find on LinkedIn, a lot of people will share things. They'll share blog posts, they'll share us information on what they're doing, and I like to see what's going on with people that are in the industry. So I'm involved in real estate, I'm involved in commercial construction,
And
I'm
you can see
involved
their
in architecture.
background, you can see what their skill set is.
And I look at some of the big CM companies. What are you working on?
Sure.
What are the big projects coming up? And a lot of it's not just because my company, where I do the land entitlements and sell to the home builders. I also chair the construction management program at the college, and I'm always interested in where are companies to send my students to go to work, and where are the up and coming trendsetters in that industry.
Sure.
So that's what I learn from, and I get a lot of posts that I can use to teach others different practices and different opinions about what's going on in the industry.
So knowledge about who's in and around the space and what they're doing, and being able to share that with other folks.
And I'd
Curious
like
if
to
other
touch on
folks
that.
have.
Yeah, so if you were trying to attract someone like Steve, then obviously you would become an authority in your space by posting blog articles, being a resource within your community. And if you're trying to attract some type of home buyer, then you might give a market update and relevant information that will actually be useful. There's a book that's amazing. It's called Contagious. It's Why Things Go Viral. And one of the things, the 6 reasons, is that people like useful information. Past all of the scare tactics or all of the things that might make people laugh or whatever, you can cut through that and actually be professional in a business sense by giving them useful information that's timely. And you could be an authority for that purpose. And then you'll attract really high quality types of clients to you. And that is a social media strategy.
Okay, before we move on, we're gonna move on from social media to some other platforms out there too. But we need to take a break right now. So we'll be right back. This is Real Men of Real Estate. We are discussing how technology and social media are reshaping real estate. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
If you love them enough to relearn math so you can teach them math, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
You made your house a reality. Homeschooling yourself on loans, color-coding listings, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. If you can ace house hunting, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.
Welcome back to Real Men in Real Estate. I'm your host, Steve Matley. I am joined today by Tunde Ogunwole, Brian Fox, and Jeffrey Brogger, and we have been discussing how media and technology are reshaping real estate. And I want to move away from social media and get to some of the content type stuff that goes up there. For example, the proliferation of live streaming now that's come up. Everybody's become their own television producer and studio and broadcaster, which is great that the normal average person has that ability. So I'm going to start with you again, Jeff, and talk to us how live streaming fits into this whole idea of using technology and social media to brand ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. So live streaming is by far the biggest advantage that's been released in the last few years with social media. One of the reasons is reach. If you notice, in the last couple of years, the Facebook and Instagram algorithm have changed to show you things that they think you're interested in based on how much engagement it gets. That's a lot different than the chronological feed that we used to have, where you'd put something out and 400 of your friends see it within a couple hours. Sure. And so now that that has all changed, and you get way less reach with what you are putting out on social media, the live stream is different. When you go live, Facebook and Instagram, or even if you're on YouTube or whatever, announces it to everyone that follows you instantaneously, immediately. That gets a little banner at the top. Boom, this person just went live. If they're on desktop, boom, this person is live right now. The reach is incredible. And then past that, you can be candid, be live, there's no editing, it's kind of raw, and you can share your value, you can have some notes, but afterward you can also repost it. You can then run an ad to it if you have it on your business page on something like Facebook. And so there's that upfront reach, but then there's also the long tail where you can actually then push more, and if this really resonated and hit with your community, cool. You can put some extra dollars behind it and continue to grow your brand as your own media company online.
Yeah, in the last year I noticed that a lot of time live streaming, it goes out and people tune in for the first 5 seconds, and if they're not interested, they're out again. So there's got to be a strategy to this. So Brian, in your line of work here, if people were looking at live streaming to be real estate agents, what do they need to do to actually get people to want to engage in that?
I think the very first thing I would do is not overjudge yourself based upon how that exactly looks online, and that's the biggest thing to overcome, honestly. And that's why we talked earlier about all those people trying to copy and assimilate what they see. And so if you're going to do something that is live streaming, I think it'd probably be more beneficial to show kind of the real work as opposed to the show. Right, and the real work is, there actually is a person I know who that's all their account is just the grime of the business, door knocking in 100-degree heat and what it looks like, and just it's the raw real part of it, and it's different. Everyone's used to seeing you put your best face on when you're in this business, and you put your second best face on when you're online in front of people. So those combination, it's kind of tough to get a sense of reality, and I think it's that sense of reality that would help people and say, oh, okay, I can relate to this person. And I think that would be the first thing, coming up with a strategy that revolves around how can I make this as real as possible and say what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And I think this show is evidence of it. We have a title, Real Men of Real Estate. If you're interested in it and you see something like that on a live feed, you're probably going to stay after the first 5 seconds or so. And it makes it a little bit more clear to the individual, hey, look, this is what I'm seeing live, et cetera, and dives people in.
That brings up an interesting point is our show, obviously, we are unscripted, organic conversations, but we do prep ahead of time on what topics are we covering, what are we going to, how do we discuss it, who's going to lead the conversation, because a lot of people live stream, I see they just sort of wing it. They put a camera on and just start talking about whatever, and they ramble on this. We started with real estate, now we're talking about bunnies, now we're talking about cotton candy, and we don't know why, and then the kid interrupts from behind, and it sort of loses us in the, there's nothing really there. And so I think even if you're just doing live streaming, you need to actually take it seriously, like you're actually doing a production, and have some sort of an organization, an outline, and these are the topics I'm going to cover. And you have the opportunity also to engage people that are watching, because I know that on live stream you can actually see who's tuning in, and you can even do shout outs to them or reference them and those type of things, which is certainly something different than we can do here in the studio.
Absolutely.
Right. And if we have a moment, I'd like to touch on what an example of a good live stream would look like.
Okay.
You'd prepare ahead of time, and people love stories. Storytelling is how people retain information. So a great way to think about it is every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Don't start a live stream until you know where it ends. And when you have that ending in mind, even if you just write it out one time right before you go live, it's really powerful. And I've experienced this. I've done the wing it, didn't go well. And I've done the one where I had a very clear ending in mind. And even though there's some freedom in between and I'm interacting with people that are popping on and I'm giving them shout outs, I know that, okay, I just said the key line, that the entire goal of this live stream was to cover that. Cool, thanks for tuning in. I'll be live next week or whatever your send off is, and then boom, you're done. It's clean, it's professional, and it's really powerful to start with the end in mind.
Okay, and I want to shift gears a little bit here. We talked a little bit, you touched briefly, Jeffrey, on the algorithms that kind of decide what we're going to watch and when we're going to watch and what we're going to see. Artificial intelligence, and that is built into a lot of these platforms. And artificial intelligence is changing the way we do a lot of things. I don't necessarily know that it's as accurate as it should be. You go on Facebook and you kind of see what Facebook thinks you are, not what you say you are, but what it thinks you are. Facebook thinks I'm an Asian woman. Okay, why? Probably because I was involved, again, in that nonprofit. We did all these fashion shows and stuff. So there's all that kind of connection. Think, what kind of guy would be interested in that, right? So it doesn't know who I am. Instagram, owned by the same company, seems to know exactly who I am. The ads come in and they hit the nail on the head. So let's talk about how artificial intelligence works in all this deal.
Okay, well, this is a deep topic. Artificial intelligence, go.
Okay, you have 5 seconds to explain this on a master's degree level.
Tell me
Right.
how Terminator is not coming. Go.
Right. Yeah, and that's a great point. A lot of people fear the term artificial intelligence, and I think that a better way to look at it is intelligence augmentation, because if we're leveraging data, I mean, we're talking about 2.4 billion people that are on Facebook. The data is unfathomable. You couldn't possibly process this with a team of humans that are the best in the world. So these algorithms and this artificial intelligence, I'm not an advocate for it, but what I'm trying to get across is that potentially it can help us to understand how people are connecting with each other on these platforms. And if we can make those decisions based on data that this artificial intelligence can give us in a way that we can actually consume, and then make the decision and be in the reins and control it, then we can make the user experience better for everyone, and we can interact with people better. And from a real estate perspective, we can, as brokers or companies, we can make decisions of how the market is trending, how it's shifting, how decisions are being made, what types of areas are growing, what types are actually going the other way, and it's really useful data. So I think the artificial intelligence some people are all about it, some people aren't, but to just keep it kind of high level, that would be the best that I could do.
Okay. So I think artificial intelligence, I always think that was me faking my way through college. Okay, that was.
There we go.
All right. So, anything to add on artificial intelligence?
Depending on how much time we got, but for me, honestly, I think there's a big movement of people trying to see how technology is going to replace the agent in general, and I think that's ultimately impossible. I think what it will do is replace a various amount of copious activities that are non-productive. Non-productive type, like chatting, follow-up. There's going to be a lot of stuff that can run on a system that don't require the agent's energy. And right now, an agent is a one-stage cure-all. They do everything. They become CEO and accountant all on the same day. And I think that there's a lot of this stuff that's going to back-end as individual tool sets that will remove 50% of their workload, and maybe they get paid less across the board, but they have a lot of time back, and it'll end up blending that career more than you think. I think that's going to be the future of it.
Okay, so they're going to get 50% less probably up front, but as they become more efficient and effective at doing what they do best and stop doing what they don't do well, they'll probably increase their income.
Productivity will increase. Yeah, sorry.
They'll have more transactions.
Right,
yes.
correct. They may, and I would gladly carve 50% out to do only the things that make us money, and I get the rest of my time back for sure.
Absolutely.
But that's what I think AI and a lot of these things are going to do. Instead of trying to create the quote unquote iPhone of real estate and redevelop how we can get rid of everybody, which will never happen because it's too much of human business, but be able to systemize all things that do not require direct human contact.
Right. And we are talking about that in the upcoming episode of how to beat iBuyers and things like that from an agent perspective. And something that you pointed out, which I think is a great point, is focusing on your genius area. And I agree. My company, we focus on automated messaging and helping with the chat feature and helping to automate some of those things. And yes, it uses some AI, but what that really does is it's not replacing the agent. It's helping them with some of the tedious, repetitive activities from the day-to-day, and it's helping the consumer to get the information they need when they need it.
Okay. Tunde, anything to add on that?
You know, I feel like the AI algorithms are actually getting better. The example that you used before, Facebook not so much, I find that the content that I want, the articles that I'm looking for, data that I'm looking for, based on the searches, are helpful for me from a knowledge gathering perspective and information making. So I'm actually encouraged by the trends that we're starting to see.
I would tell you the Amazon ads, spot on with the AI. If I mention something in private, it shows up on all my ad feeds. We need to take a break. We're going to be right back, and we're going to continue this conversation on media and technology affecting real estate. Don't go anywhere. This is Real Men in Real Estate. We'll be right back.
If you love them enough to relearn math so you can teach them math, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
You made your house a reality. Homeschooling yourself on loans, color-coding listings, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. If you can ace house hunting, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.
Welcome back to Real Men in Real Estate. I'm your host, Steve Matley, and today we've been talking about how media and technology are reshaping real estate with our other Real Men in Real Estate. Today I have Tunde Ogunwole, Brian Fox, and Jeffrey Brogger, and I want to talk about what the future looks like. Now, to some degree, I think I already know what the future looks like because I watched every episode of Back to the Future and I watched the Jetsons on a regular basis. So, Tunde, tell us, what do you think the future looks like?
I think the two drivers that we're going to see in terms of technology and how it influences real estate. Number one, I think authenticity. We talk about real men of real estate. Authenticity. We want to see that in multi-dimensional elements. So seeing it in a conversation, whether it's streaming, having cards that really broadcast what the experience is going to be. I think that's huge. So I think an authenticity and multidimensionality and interactivity. I think people want to interact. So right now, I think we've seen some VR technology and trying to project people into the properties and trying to forecast what it's going to experientially look like. I think those are trends that we're probably going to see.
I think even more
in
than
the
virtual
future.
reality, be augmented reality. You
Augmented,
actually put
AR,
this on and
that's
walk
right.
through a house in real time, even with upgrades in it that you're thinking about.
And to be able to change it real time. So I think that those are the trends.
Brian, what are your thoughts on that?
I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a couple steps to this. I think the first is going to be stuff that we are okay with seeing right now. I think that virtual reality, augmented reality, we are okay with the idea of it, but I think if you actually put a mask on someone, have them tour a house and say, okay, you're ready to buy it, they'd be like, well, we should probably go inside still. It's just they're not there yet mentally to be able to make that transition. I think there's going to be a couple steps to this where we start out with some basic apps, some things that are AI related that can just release some of this anxiety of certain things, and it takes that off the plate first. Then we'll step into a next generation of technology. So for instance, we're using a company right now that we can take pictures of our entire room because we own a staging company that we use for everything. We can send it in and they can design the whole room and send it back in virtual stuff that I can actually go buy at the direct stores that have it. And we started using this to subsidize our stager so we can make her life a little bit easier so we can just buy stuff. But that is brand new. I haven't seen it before. It's very simple, but by being okay with that, we can now move into the next phase, which is looking around, seeing the price tags of furniture in our house, say that one, that one, that one, and it'll just put it in our shopping cart.
Fantastic.
Stuff like that.
Now, I see the real advantage isn't so much using the virtually augmented reality for the buyer to actually pick a house to buy, but to eliminate all the houses they don't want to waste their time going to.
Correct.
They can look through that and say, okay, only these three houses because the rest, there's things I don't like about it.
I agree with that.
Right. Jeffrey, tell us your thoughts on it.
Yeah, and I do have to ask, how far into the future? What are we talking here?
Well, 5 to 10 years won't be a lot different now. It'll be some different, but let's go like, say, 20, 25 years.
Okay. So a really big thing, and it's going to actually be immediate starting late 2019, early 2020, is 5G. The 5G network is going to change everything, and the transfer of data globally. So with that being said, the stats are that you can have 1 gigabyte up and down on your phone walking around. That's 10 times the fastest Wi-Fi in residential. So what does that mean? This unlocks AR. This unlocks VR. Because I went to CES, huge conference, and this is part of the value that I offer clients is I stay on the cutting edge of these things and I let them know what's coming. So AR, VR, it's a couple years out. It's not there yet. But what's holding it back in a big way is the data transfer. This is massive data to fly through the air, and because of that, the photos and the recreations are all pixelated. It doesn't look real enough. 5G unlocks that. When we can transfer data that fast, then we can have a 4K video that you're walking through, then it's much more real and immersive. And so the data networks to transfer that hardwire fiber technology that's going to allow us to be on our phone and have these incredible data speeds anywhere, I think that is going to be one of the biggest impacts because it unlocks everything else. That's what's throttling a lot of the technology.
So we're going to go from the 80s pixelated arcade video game to the widescreen high definition television when this happens. Okay. That's fascinating stuff. Something to add?
What's cool about that is that as soon as that comes out, everyone's going to want to go back to retro again.
Well, it's kind of what happens, isn't it? Yes.
They're like, can we get a retro AR? I'm going to buy the Qbert house. Yeah.
Qbert house, yeah. Except then the Rampage guys will come in and ruin it.
Yeah.
There you go. So,
cost of doing
those was used to be in the arcade business. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what the future is. And what I want to talk about is the future also is who influences the real estate market in the future?
So, okay, so let's talk about this real quick. When I was talking about AI taking this part away, I like hearing that because that tells me what's coming after that. So what's coming after that will be an adaptation period. The adaptation period will, how long does it take for us to get used to this concept? And how long will it take for other competitors to come out and improve it? So when the iPhone came out, that was a game changer. It was like a quantum leap for everybody's mentality. But since then, that's like a forethought conclusion. It wasn't that long ago, but now that's just the way it is. Right. And so the question is, how long will that take while we're adapting to that period? And I think what's going to happen is you're going to have, in the real estate space, you're going to have specialization and segmentation. So you're not going to have one cure-all agent. You're going to have an agent who does a specific thing like a doctor and all these people behind it that are actually doing specific tasks.
Okay. All right. Anything to add to influencing coming up?
Influencing, yes. I believe that those agents that now are being their own media company are going to be the ones in the next 5-10 years who have the platform to influence. And there are not only individual agents but large agent coaches that are influencing. And you talking about guys that have companies themselves or brokerages or cloud brokerages or whatever. And I don't want to name specific names, but with that being said, whoever is being their own media company now and investing in that now on social is going to be able to influence in the future.
Okay, we need to wrap it up with that. This is Real Men of Real Estate. Check us out on Roku and Amazon. Check us out on realmenofrealestate.com. I want to thank everybody on the panel. Tunde Ogunwole, Brian Fox, Jeffrey Brogger. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We'll see you next time on Real Men of Real Estate.